A woman in a wheelchair was suspected of stealing a diamond ring from a jewelry store. However, upon reviewing the security footage, the owner was shocked by the truth that was revealed. The night was warm, and the muffled beat of loud music still echoed in Amanda's head. She and Lucas had just left a party, much like countless other nights. Laughter, friends, and inevitably, a few too many drinks. The air between them was charged with the light buzz of alcohol. But something felt a bit off tonight. Amanda smiled, watching Lucas trying to stay relaxed, yet there was something in the glint of his eyes that troubled her. "Lucas, are you sure you're okay to drive?" she asked, feeling a pang of doubt as he adjusted the rearview mirror and started the car. "Of course, babe, I'm fine," he said casually, flashing a crooked grin. "It's just a short drive home." She wanted to believe him. After all, this wasn't the first time they'd driven home late after a party, with Lucas behind the wheel. But this time, something deep inside her felt different. Amanda gripped her seatbelt a little tighter, trying to shake off the unease. The car sped down the road, the city still awake in the distance, but the silence inside the vehicle seemed to grow with every mile. The empty road reflected the city lights ahead, creating a scene that, to most, would be ordinary. But for Amanda, this drive was about to change everything. The easy laughter from the party quickly faded, replaced by a heavy sense of dread. Lucas floored the gas pedal, and Amanda felt her whole body tense up. She glanced over at him, her worry growing. The speedometer was climbing fast, and the streetlights flickered past her tired eyes. The sound of the tires on the road got louder as the car picked up speed. "Lucas, please, slow down." Amanda tried to speak, but her words were swallowed by the roar of the engine. Then, in a flash, everything changed. It happened in a split second, but that moment stretched out, feeling like an eternity. The car began to skid. Amanda felt the world spin violently around her. The headlights from other cars blurred into a swirl of light and screams. The impact was deafening, metal crunching, glass shattering, the seatbelt digging into her chest. And then, silence. A silence that felt like it lasted forever. When Amanda opened her eyes, everything was a blur. Emergency lights flashed in the distance, and there were voices, screams, but it all sounded muffled, like she was underwater. The pain hit her slowly at first, then like a wave crashing over her legs. She tried to move, but her body refused to cooperate. Lucas was there, stumbling out of the car with only minor scratches. He looked shaken, but unharmed. "Amanda, Amanda, talk to me," Lucas shouted, but his voice seemed far away, as if coming from another world. She wanted to answer, but no words came out. Fear gripped her as the cold crept up her legs, which still wouldn't move. The sound of sirens echoed in the distance, blending with the darkness that was slowly taking over her vision. Hours later, Amanda woke up in the hospital. The strong smell of disinfectant hit her, and the bright lights of the room momentarily blinded her. Amanda felt her body heavy, almost numb, but the tingling in her legs was terrifying. She tried to move, but nothing happened. Her heart raced. Where were her legs? She tried again and again, but her limbs stayed still. Panic set in. At that moment, a nurse walked into the room, followed by a doctor with a serious look on his face. "You're incredibly lucky to be alive, Amanda," the doctor began, but his voice sounded distant, like it was coming from far away. "The accident was severe, and unfortunately, your vertebrae sustained irreparable damage. You're paraplegic." The words hit Amanda like a punch to the gut. Paraplegic. The word echoed in her mind, but it was as if her brain refused to absorb it. It felt like her entire world collapsed around her. Everything she knew, everything she was, seemed to be ripped away in an instant. In the days that followed, Amanda barely spoke. The emotional pain was just as unbearable as the physical. She cried silently at night, trying to make sense of her new reality. Lucas visited her constantly, but something about him had changed. He was more distant. Amanda, still fragile, sensed something breaking between them, but she clung to the hope that he would stay. He was even there when she started physical therapy. Despite her heartbreak, she believed they could face this together. But as the days passed, Amanda noticed Lucas becoming more and more absent, even though he was physically there. He seemed distracted, avoiding deep conversations, and she felt an emptiness growing. One afternoon, days after the accident, Lucas walked into her hospital room with a dark expression. He sat down beside her, holding her hand, but the weight of what he was about to say was heavier than the gesture. "Amanda?" he began, hesitant, staring at the floor. "I've been thinking a lot about everything." Amanda's heart raced. She knew what was coming. She knew, but she wasn't ready. I don't know how to say this without hurting you, but I can't handle all of this. I've tried, I swear I have. But it's not fair, not to you and not to me." Lucas couldn't even look her in the eye when he said, "I'm not strong enough to go through this with you." It felt like a punch straight to Amanda's gut. Her heart pounded in her chest, and everything started spinning. This was the man she thought she'd spend forever with. "Lucas, are you breaking up with me?" Her voice came out as a whisper, heavy with the kind of pain that sinks deep into your soul. He sighed, his eyes glued to the floor. "Yes, Amanda. I'm really sorry, but I just can't be the person you need right now." The silence that followed was suffocating, as if the air had been sucked out of the room. Amanda sat there, frozen, as Lucas stood up slowly, threw her one last glance, and walked out the door. The weight of it all came crashing down. Her world crumbled around her, and tears streamed uncontrollably down her face. It wasn't just losing the ability to walk, it was losing Lucas, the man she thought would be her rock, her partner through everything. And now, he was gone, alone. In the days that followed, the pain was unbearable. Lucas, the man who swore eternal love, had given up. The accident had already turned her world upside down, but his leaving felt like the final blow. Amanda, trapped in her new reality, retreated deeper into herself. Days passed where she barely moved from her bed, the wheelchair sitting nearby, like a cruel reminder of how much had changed. And every silence replayed that moment in the hospital when Lucas said he couldn't stay. The empty space beside her was like an open wound. The only person who stayed by her side was her mom, Selma. Every day, Selma walked into the room, even when Amanda didn't want company. But her presence was the one thing keeping Amanda from completely falling apart. Selma was there every single day, bringing meals, tidying up the room, and sometimes just sitting in silence, holding Amanda's hand. She knew that words couldn't fix her daughter, but she hoped her unconditional love could be the anchor Amanda needed. But no matter what Selma did, Amanda was sinking deeper and deeper. The feeling of loss was overwhelming, and the emotional pain was as sharp as the physical. She couldn't imagine ever living a full life again. The wheelchair wasn't just a way to move. To Amanda, it felt like a prison, and Lucas's absence only magnified her suffering. One morning, Selma walked into the room and found Amanda sitting by the window, staring out but not really seeing anything. Silent tears streamed down her face. Without a word, Selma sat down beside her. The silence hung heavy, but Selma knew it was time to speak. "My love, I know you feel like you've lost everything," she began, her voice gentle but steady. "But you're still here. I'm still here. You may feel broken, but I see your strength, even if you can't right now." Amanda kept staring out the window, her mother's words floating in the air. She knew Selma was trying to help, but it was hard to see a way forward. "I'm not the same person anymore, Mom," Amanda finally said, bitterness dripping from her voice. "I'll never be the same. Everything was taken from me." Selma took her daughter's hands, her eyes filled with both determination and love. "Yes, your life has changed. It's not fair, and I would give anything to take it all back. But Amanda, you still have a life to live. You don't have to be the same person you were before." You know those words that hit you hard, even when you're at rock bottom? That's what Selma's words did to Amanda. You can become someone new, someone stronger. It didn't fix everything overnight, but it planted a seed. The days that followed were still tough, but something started shifting inside Amanda. Maybe, just maybe, her life wasn't over. She was broken, no doubt, but could she rebuild herself? Selma was there, steady as a rock. Every single day, she helped Amanda adjust to this new reality. The simplest things, getting around the house, doing everyday tasks, had become huge challenges. But Selma was always there, patient, celebrating each tiny victory and reminding Amanda that her life didn't have to be limited by her wheelchair. Of course, the process was slow, and Amanda still had days where everything felt unbearable. She kept replaying the accident in her mind. The screeching tires, the brutal impact, the terror of realizing she couldn't move her legs. And worst of all, Lucas's empty expression when he told her he couldn't stay. The emotional scars were deeper than any physical pain. The world outside her room felt so distant. Friends who used to be part of her everyday life stopped visiting, and their absence only deepened her sense of isolation. It felt like everyone had moved on, leaving her behind in a life she didn't choose. Then, after weeks of shutting herself in, Amanda finally accepted her mom's invitation. Just a short trip outside to get some fresh air, nothing major. But for Amanda, it was a huge internal battle. She feared the looks of pity, the whispered comments, the thought of being seen as someone different, someone to feel sorry for. With Selma's help, she finally made it outside. The sun was shining, and the soft breeze was more comforting than she expected. For the first time in a while, Amanda felt a strange sense of peace. The wheelchair was still there, a constant reminder of all she had lost, but for a few moments she allowed herself to breathe without the weight of her sadness. So there she was, Amanda, gazing up at the sky while Selma watered the plants beside her. She let out this deep sigh, the kind that comes with a mix of pain and a hint of hope. Maybe, just maybe, her mom was right. Maybe there was a new life waiting for her. Something different from what she'd imagined before the accident, but still meaningful. Selma, noticing her daughter lost in thought, smiled softly. "It's a small step, Amanda," she said in that gentle voice of hers, "but every step counts." And Amanda knew it. She knew the road ahead was still long, but that little moment outside, under the open sky, was the first step toward accepting her new reality. It was small, but it was a start. After months of isolation, reflection, and small daily victories, Amanda finally felt ready to take another step forward. The sadness still came in waves, but she couldn't live stuck in the past anymore. With her mother's unwavering support, she realized she needed to find a way to reconnect with life, to find a purpose again. That's when the opportunity came up, an unexpected job opening at a jewelry store downtown. They were looking for someone to help with customer service. At first, Amanda hesitated. The fear of facing the world as someone in a wheelchair still lingered. But with Selma's constant encouragement, and after a lot of thinking, Amanda decided she was ready to give it a shot. On the day of the interview, you could feel her nerves. She took her time getting ready, making sure she looked strong and confident. She wanted to show that despite the wheelchair, she was still Amanda, determined, capable, and resilient. When she arrived at the jewelry store, the owner, Mr. Mendez, greeted her. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and a welcoming smile. "Amanda, right? Come on in," he said warmly. Amanda was taken aback by his tone. She had expected at the very least a moment of hesitation because of her condition. But no, Mr. Mendez treated her like anyone else. And for Amanda, that was the beginning of something new. The interview flowed so naturally it felt like a chat between friends. Amanda started sharing bits about her past, that fateful day that turned her life upside down, but also her strong resolve to reclaim her life after the accident. "I'm not looking for charity," she said, locking eyes with Mr. Mendez, her determination shining through. "I'm here for an opportunity to prove I'm still capable. I want to work, contribute, and find my purpose again." Mr. Mendez smiled, clearly impressed by her courage. "I like your attitude, Amanda. You have so much to offer. I can see you possess something many employees lack, the ability to overcome obstacles." And just like that, Amanda got the job. As she made her way home, an indescribable sense of achievement washed over her. For the first time in months, she felt like she was truly rebuilding her life, taking control of her destiny again. The first day at the jewelry store arrived, and the mix of nerves and excitement was palpable. Amanda got there early, her wheelchair perfectly adjusted, ready to shine. Mr. Mendez introduced her to her coworkers, including Marlene, one of the longest-serving attendants. Marlene, a woman in her 30s with a reserved personality, sized Amanda up with a critical gaze. When she saw Amanda for the first time, her smile was polite but not warm. "Welcome, Amanda," she said, assessing her from head to toe. "I hope you settle in well here." But Amanda was determined. From that moment, she threw herself wholeheartedly into the job. She quickly learned about the products, the precious gems, and how to handle customers with finesse. The warm atmosphere of the jewelry store, combined with Mr. Mendez's welcoming attitude, helped Amanda feel confident. Her friendliness and ability to listen to customers won them over in no time. Before long, clients began to specifically ask for Amanda, filling Mr. Mendez with pride. He often praised her professionalism and her constant smile, despite the challenges she faced. However, not everything was sunshine and rainbows. Marlene, who always thought of herself as the best attendant in the store, started to feel threatened. And you know how that can complicate things. So Amanda's popularity was skyrocketing, and the affection everyone showed her, instead of making her feel good, started to bother her. At first, it was just a few sideways glances, like people were disapproving of something. But over time, Marlene's resentment became hard to hide. One day, after a customer showered Amanda with compliments, Marlene couldn't hold back her frustration. "Isn't it amazing how people love a good comeback story?" she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Amanda caught the jab but chose to ignore it. She knew it wasn't worth escalating any tension. Her main focus was on doing her job and giving it her all. However, the relationship with Marlene began to sour. The snide remarks and petty comments started piling up. Marlene, who had been discreet, was now much more direct in her criticisms. After Mr. Mendez praised Amanda in front of the staff, Marlene forced a smile and muttered under her breath, "Of course, it's easy to be the favorite when everyone feels sorry for you." Amanda felt the weight of that unfairness. She didn't want her wheelchair to define who she was. What irked her the most was the insinuation that her success came from others' pity, not her hard work. But Amanda kept her cool and continued to dedicate herself to her job. Meanwhile, Marlene seemed to be consumed by jealousy. The fact that customers preferred Amanda only fueled her resentment. The atmosphere that had once seemed like a fresh start for Amanda began to feel heavy as the tension between them grew. Then one day, after another successful sale, Mr. Mendez called Amanda into his office. She entered with a smile, a bit apprehensive, and asked, "Mr. Mendez, is something wrong?" He looked at her and said, "Actually, Amanda, I wanted to congratulate you." And he handed her a small velvet box. When Amanda opened it, a beautiful necklace sparkled in the light. "It's a gift." Mr. Mendez looked into Amanda's eyes and said, "This is a present for all the excellent work you've done. Customers are singing your praises, and I want you to know how much that means to me." Amanda was touched, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I don't even know what to say. Thank you, truly. This means so much to me." As Amanda walked back to the counter wearing the necklace, she felt Marlene's piercing gaze on her. The envy on her colleague's face was undeniable, and in that moment, Amanda realized something deeper was about to unfold. The tension was rising, and she wondered just how far Marlene would go to try to undermine her. Marlene had always prided herself on being the best salesperson in the jewelry store. She had worked there for years, earning the trust of customers and the respect of Mr. Mendez. But since Amanda arrived, everything felt different. Amanda's genuine smile, her ability to make customers feel special, and her positive attitude, even in a wheelchair, infuriated Marlene deeply. At first, Marlene tried to ignore Amanda's presence. She told herself it was just a phase, that the customers' excitement for Amanda would soon fade. But it didn't fade. In fact, Amanda's popularity kept growing day by day. Customers who used to prefer Marlene were now asking for Amanda, and that slowly started to eat away at Marlene's pride. The envy didn't appear all at once. It began as a tiny seed of frustration, planted every time Mr. Mendez praised Amanda. That seed grew, watered by the constant smiles of satisfied customers, until it transformed into something much more dangerous. Marlene couldn't accept that, despite all her skills and experience, she was being overshadowed by someone who, in her view, only had the advantage of a wheelchair and everyone's sympathy. It drove her crazy. She started distancing herself even more from Amanda, and her sarcastic comments became more frequent, a bitter wave eating away at her inside. Marlene saw Amanda as a competitor, someone who needed to be neutralized. Each little success of Amanda's was a painful reminder of her own insecurities. Envy quickly turned into resentment. "It's not fair," Marlene muttered to herself while alone in the stockroom. "She shouldn't even be here. Everyone just praises her out of pity." Over time, Marlene began to watch Amanda closely, looking for any flaw she could use against her. But Amanda didn't make mistakes. She was always courteous, always professional, winning the respect of everyone around her. This apparent perfection only fueled Marlene's hatred, until an idea began to form in her mind. If Amanda doesn't make mistakes, then I'll make it seem like she did. That night, lying in bed, Marlene plotted her plan. It was simple yet effective. She knew Mr. Mendez trusted Amanda implicitly, and that trust was exactly what she aimed to undermine. If I can frame her, everything will go back to normal, she thought, a bitter smile creeping onto her face. She wouldn't allow Amanda to keep stealing her place in the jewelry store. From that moment on, Marlene watched Amanda even more closely, waiting for the perfect opportunity to put her plan into action. Envy had turned into a weapon, and Marlene was ready to use it. That morning, everything in the jewelry store seemed normal. Amanda arrived early, as usual, dedicated and ready for another day of work. Mr. Mendez greeted her with a smile, and customers were starting to come in, eager to enjoy the excellent service Amanda always provided. Marlene, on the other hand, kept her distance, but was on high alert inside. Today was the day she would execute her plan. While Amanda was assisting a customer at the counter, Marlene was gearing up for a calculated move. She knew exactly where the jewelry store's most expensive diamond ring was kept, and when everyone was distracted, she struck. With the finesse of a seasoned thief, Marlene snatched the ring and discreetly hid it in Amanda's bag, which was in the employee's break room. The act was quick and silent, with no witnesses. For Marlene, this would be the final blow that would shatter Amanda's reputation. A few hours later, Mr. Mendez realized the ring was missing. His heart raced. That diamond piece was invaluable, and its disappearance would create a massive problem. He interrupted the customer service and gathered the employees at the back of the store. "Everyone, I need you to stay calm," Mendez said, trying to maintain control. "It seems the diamond ring has vanished. We need to find out what happened. I'll need to search everyone's bags." Amanda looked around, surprised but showing no signs of worry. She knew she hadn't done anything wrong. Marlene, on the other hand, wore a calm, almost carefree expression. Her eyes sparkled with malicious satisfaction as Mr. Mendez began checking the employees' bags. One by one, the bags were inspected. When it was Marlene's turn, nothing was found. She shot a superior glance at Amanda, as if she already knew what was about to happen. When Mendez picked up Amanda's bag, he hesitated. Amanda was his most trusted employee. It couldn't be her. But as he opened the bag and started rummaging through her things, his expression changed. At the bottom of the bag, the missing diamond ring gleamed. Amanda's breath caught in her throat. She stared incredulously at the ring nestled among her belongings. "This can't be happening," she thought. Mr. Mendez, clearly shaken, lifted his gaze to Amanda, and the disappointment on his face hit her like a punch. "Amanda, how did this get here?" he asked, incredulous. "I can't believe you would do something like this." Amanda stammered, her voice trembling with panic. I don't know, Mr. Mendez. I swear I didn't put that ring in my bag. This is a mistake." Marlene, watching from the sidelines with her arms crossed, couldn't hide her slight smile of satisfaction. Her plan was working perfectly. Mr. Mendez looked devastated, and Amanda, in shock, was about to lose everything she had worked for. "Please," Amanda begged, tears welling in her eyes. "Check the security cameras. I would never do something like this." Amanda's words made Marlene freeze. Up to that moment, Marlene was so obsessed with her plan to frame Amanda that she completely forgot about the security cameras. The smug expression on her face quickly turned into one of horror as she realized everything was about to collapse. "If Mendez checks the footage, I'm done for," she thought, her eyes darting toward Mr. Mendez, who was heading to the security room, hesitant but determined to give Amanda a chance to prove her innocence. With every step Mendez took, Marlene's panic grew. She hadn't planned for this twist. So focused on ruining Amanda, she had overlooked the obvious, the security cameras covering every inch of the store. Meanwhile, Amanda was a mix of fear and hope. She knew she hadn't done anything wrong, and the cameras would reveal the truth. Still, the weight of the accusation and Mendez's disappointed gaze lingered heavily on her. As Mendez began reviewing the footage, a heavy silence enveloped the room. The monitor displayed the store's activity over the last few hours, showcasing Amanda's warm, dedicated interactions with customers. In the background, Marlene could be seen heading to the staff break room. And then, the climax. The cameras clearly captured the moment Marlene snatched the ring and slipped it into Amanda's bag, thinking no one would see her. Mendez froze in front of the screen, disbelief etched on his face. The evidence was undeniable, as clear as day. Marlene, his longtime employee, had plotted against Amanda in a way he could never have imagined. The shock and sadness on his face were palpable. "Marlene," he murmured, his voice faltering. "How could you do this?" Amanda's voice trembled as she looked at Marlene, still reeling from the betrayal. While she felt relief that her innocence had been proven, Marlene's actions were more than just a professional betrayal. They were personal, cruel, and left Amanda speechless. Marlene, realizing she had been caught, turned pale. All her meticulous plans that once seemed foolproof were crumbling before her eyes. "Mr. Mendez," Marlene stammered, trying to explain herself, but her voice faltered. "No," Mendez cut in, still shaken. "There's no justification for what you did. I can't believe anyone could be so dishonest and cruel." He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts before continuing. "You're fired, Marlene. Leave my store." Defeated and humiliated, Marlene walked out without saying another word. Amanda, on the other hand, stood in silence, struggling to process everything that had just happened. Mendez approached her, his expression full of regret. "Amanda, I'm so sorry for doubting you. I should never have done that. You're one of the best employees I've ever had, and you didn't deserve this." Amanda, still shaken, simply nodded, unable to find her voice. The truth had come to light, but the sting of Marlene's betrayal lingered. The silence in the jewelry store was thick after Marlene's exit. Mendez was still reeling from the shock of it all. Meanwhile, Amanda was trying to make sense of everything, but the emotional toll was overwhelming. She had been wrongfully accused by someone harboring deep resentment, and oddly enough, she felt more pity for Marlene than anger. However, they needed to discuss the inevitable. "Amanda," Mendez began, "you have every right to report what Marlene did. She tried to ruin your reputation, and she almost succeeded. If you want to call the police, I fully support that," Mendez said, his tone firm. Amanda looked at him in silence, his words sinking in. Anyone else in her shoes might have sought justice, but something held her back. She thought about Marlene's small child. The idea of tearing apart a family, of taking a mother away from her child, felt too cruel. Amanda didn't want that weight on her conscience, especially knowing how her own life had been shattered before. "No, I won't call the police," she said, her voice steady but gentle. "She has a small child, Mr. Mendez. I can't be responsible for destroying a family like mine was destroyed. I'd rather leave this behind." Mendez was silent for a moment, surprised by Amanda's generosity. Few people would have the courage to make such a choice, and he couldn't help but admire her even more. "You are an extraordinary person, Amanda," he said, his voice filled with respect. "That's an act of compassion that few would have." Before they could continue, Marlene appeared in the doorway of the store. Her face was marked by shame and sadness as she avoided Amanda's gaze while approaching with her eyes downcast. I just came to get my things and wait for my boyfriend," Marlene murmured, unable to look anyone in the eye. Amanda nodded silently, feeling the tension in the air. Time seemed to stretch as they waited in silence until the jewelry store door opened again. When Amanda looked up, her stomach twisted at who had just walked in. There, standing at the entrance, was Lucas, her ex-fiancé. The shock rippled through everyone, but for Amanda, it hit like a freight train. The man she believed was her soulmate, the one who abandoned her during the darkest time of her life, was now with Marlene, the very woman who tried to sabotage her career. Suddenly, everything clicked into place in Amanda's mind. So that's where Marlene's hatred comes from, Lucas. Lucas seemed frozen in time when their eyes met. He clearly didn't expect to see her there. The silence between them felt heavy, charged with memories and unresolved pain. Amanda didn't utter a word. She simply watched him, disbelief and sadness swirling in her gaze. Marlene, sensing the tension, finally broke the silence. "Lucas, can we go?" she asked, trying to ease the situation. Lucas nodded slowly, his eyes still locked on Amanda. He seemed on the verge of saying something, but in the end, he turned away and followed Marlene. Amanda felt a pang in her heart, but the once overwhelming pain was now just a whisper. Perhaps it was time, or maybe the newfound strength within her, that made the difference. She knew that chapter of her life was definitively closed. As Lucas and Marlene exited, Mr. Mendez cast an understanding look at Amanda. "That was a tough blow," he said, empathy shining in his eyes. "Are you okay?" Amanda took a deep breath and managed a small smile. "It was hard, but I'm at peace with it. What happened with Lucas is in the past, and I can't change that. Now, I just want to move forward." Mr. Mendez returned her smile, impressed. "You have a strength that few people possess, Amanda. I admire that." Amanda's emotional recovery after the incident with Marlene already showcased her strength, but what followed proved that her generosity and compassion knew no bounds. Weeks after the chaos in the jewelry store, Mr. Mendez showed up at work looking visibly worn out. His eyes carried the weight of a worry he could no longer hide. During the coffee break, Amanda noticed the tired expression on Mendez's face and decided to approach him. "Mr. Mendez, you look worried. Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice filled with empathy. He sighed, running his hand over his face as if trying to relieve some invisible pressure. "It's my daughter, Luana," he began, his voice trembling. "She's only 17, and she's very sick. The doctors diagnosed her with a rare lung condition. They said the only way forward is an urgent transplant. We're desperately searching for a compatible donor, but so far, nothing." Amanda felt her heart tighten. The pain in Mendez's face was palpable, and she knew all too well how devastating it was to see someone you love in danger and feel powerless. That night, Amanda couldn't shake the thought of Luana and Mendez's suffering from her mind. He had helped her so much since she started at the jewelry store, and now he was facing this terrible situation. The urge to help began to swell within her. The next day, Amanda made a bold and selfless decision. She sought out Mr. Mendez in his office and entered with determination. "Mr. Mendez, I've been thinking a lot about what you told me regarding Luana," she began, looking him directly in the eye. "I want to get tested. I want to see if I'm a match for the transplant. If there's a chance I can help her, I will." Mendez stood frozen, shock clear in his eyes. He hesitated for a few seconds, unsure how to respond. "Amanda, you don't have to do this. I would never ask something like that from you. It's a huge decision, and you've already been through so much." "I know you're not asking," Amanda replied, her voice soft yet firm, "but I feel like I owe it to her. In life, I've learned that we should extend our hand when we can. I know what it's like to lose someone, and I don't want you to feel that. If I can help Mr. Mendez, I want to do it." Amanda's words hit Mendez deep in the heart. His eyes, once tired and filled with worry, now sparkled with new hope. He realized that Amanda's offer wasn't trivial. Her willingness to sacrifice for someone she barely knew reflected the incredible kindness he always knew was within her. "If that's what you want," Mendez said, his voice thick with emotion, I accept your generosity. Luana means the world to me, and you. You're offering us a chance we could have never imagined." Amanda smiled, feeling a sense of peace that had eluded her for a long time. The compatibility test was scheduled, and the nervousness grew as the date approached. Even though she knew she was following her heart, uncertainty lingered in the air. On the day of the exams, Mendez and Amanda waited anxiously for the results. When the doctor finally entered the room, the tension was palpable. "I have good news," the doctor said with a gentle smile. "Amanda is a match for Luana for the transplant." The relief on Mendez's face was immediate. He took Amanda's hand in a gesture that conveyed more gratitude than words could express. Amanda felt a whirlwind of emotions. The surgery hadn't happened yet, but knowing she had the chance to save Luana's life was immeasurable. "You've saved my daughter even before the surgery, Amanda," Mendez said, his voice heavy with emotion. "The mere fact that you're willing to do this, I can't thank you enough." Amanda smiled, feeling that despite all the challenges life had thrown at her, she was on the right path. "I just did what my heart said was right. In life, we should always reach out when we can, and I'm happy to help." The transplant was set for the next few weeks, and preparations were in full swing. Amanda's journey was far from over, but with every sacrifice and every act of kindness, she felt life giving her a new chance to rewrite her story. This time she would be stronger, more determined, and above all, with a heart bigger than any challenge. The recovery room was like a calm oasis, silent, except for the gentle beeping of the medical monitors. Amanda slowly opened her eyes, feeling the pain managed by medication and the heaviness of fatigue settling in her body. The surgery had been long, but she was certain it had gone well. The first thought that crossed her mind was of Luana, Mr. Mendez's daughter. All Amanda wanted at that moment was to know that the surgery had been a success for the girl too. Days later, she finally got the news she had been hoping for. Luana's lung transplant had been a success. The relief that washed over her was immense, and her gratitude grew with each passing moment. Luana was out of danger and recovering well. The life Amanda had helped save was more than just a gesture. It was proof that the good we do comes back to us in unexpected ways. As soon as she gained some strength, Amanda received a visit from Mr. Mendez at the hospital. He was visibly emotional, tears of relief and gratitude glistening in his eyes. He approached and held Amanda's hand tenderly. "You saved my daughter, Amanda. There aren't enough words to express what this means to me and my family. I will never be able to repay you for what you've done for us." Amanda smiled, still feeling weak, but filled with peace. "I just did what I felt was right. I'm happy that Luana is okay. That's all that matters." Mendez took a deep breath, as if searching for the right words. "I've thought a lot about this," he began, hesitantly but with determination. "You're more than just an employee to me. You're part of my family now. Your courage, character, and generosity have inspired me in ways I never imagined. I want to do something for you. Something that changes your life just like you changed ours." Amanda looked at Mendez, surprised and slightly confused by his words. "Mendez, you don't need to do anything. Saving Luana was enough for me." "I know you don't expect anything in return," he replied, smiling with admiration. "But for everything you've been through and for all you've done for us, I want you to have a safe and bright future from now on. I've decided to give you my second jewelry store, the one I was about to sell. Now it will be yours." Incredulity washed over Amanda. She blinked, trying to absorb what Mendez had just said. "You want to give me a jewelry store?" "Yes," Mendez confirmed. "It's the least I can do for you. Starting today, you will be the owner of your own jewelry store. You deserve this, Amanda. You deserve all the good the world has to offer." Amanda was speechless. Her heart, once a battlefield of scars, was now overflowing with gratitude. She could never have imagined that after a devastating accident and Lucas's abandonment, her life would take such a turn. When she finally returned home, Amanda was welcomed by her mother, Selma, who embraced her tenderly. "I always knew good things would come back to you, my daughter," Selma said, smiling with pride. "You deserve all this." The following months were transformative. Amanda began managing her own jewelry store, with Mendez's support and initial guidance, as he insisted on being by her side in this new beginning. The store thrived under her leadership, and soon the old customers who admired her at the previous store began visiting the new location, enchanted by the care and kindness Amanda always offered. Amanda had discovered so much more than a new career. She had found a renewed purpose in life. It wasn't just about making a living anymore. It was about making a difference. Now, she could provide a better life for Selma, her mother, who had always stood by her during the toughest times. She could still remember those long nights when Selma held her hand, full of faith in her recovery. Seeing her mother's proud smile now made everything worthwhile. Amanda felt fulfilled, as if each day offered her a new opportunity to impact people's lives. And it wasn't just about profit. It was about the connections she made with her customers. She knew that her work at the jewelry store wasn't just about selling beautiful pieces. It was about creating memories and smiles. Every piece of jewelry she handed over had a story, a special meaning. The kindness and generosity she had always wanted to share were finally coming to life with every face that walked into the shop. For Amanda, this was true wealth. Did you enjoy today's story? Then subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with your friends. See you in the next video.